what you have seen since 1979 in this country, and others, but not all of them, is an absolutely phenomenal movement of income, not just wealth, from the workforce to the boss, or from the rank and file to the top. And what makes it particularly interesting this year is the fact that the rest of us are being told, obviously, that the pay rises that we think we deserve, or I'm not going to kid anybody, am I really? I'm not quite in this category myself, but the pay rises, because my pay rises, such as they are, will be linked to audience size and things like that. So I'm not a median worker. I'm not an average worker. But everybody is being told by the governor of the Bank of England down that pay rises are unaffordable because they add to inflation. So it means, of course, also that workers on average, workers suffered a real terms pay cut last year because inflation was bigger than wages. So look, if everything you buy is going up by 8% and if wages have gone up by 5%, that's a pay cut in real terms. I know in real terms sometimes sounds like a bit of a smoke and mirrors tactic, but it's pretty straightforward when you think of it. Two things about inflation that I find very interesting, even as I get older, and marvel at how I haven't come to a slightly deeper understanding of these things. The first thing about inflation that is politically interesting, as well as personally, is that when they talk about inflation coming down, it's not quite the cause for celebration that you sometimes think it is. So inflation is down to 8%, say, from 10, and you go, yay! But actually it's still 8%. it's still anyway, that's the first thing I find interesting about it. And the second thing, of course, is that if inflation is higher than a pay rise, an annual pay rise, then you are, not getting a pay rise by any meaningful measure in terms of how far the money goes and how much is left at the end of the month. So it just struck me today that if there were ever going to be a year where you would expect this inexorable divide between boss and worker, this inexorable shift of income from workforce to boss, it would probably have been this year. And yet here we are. There are also calls in the city for board remuneration to be raised further because the UK apparently is struggling to compete with other countries, particularly the US. The top 500 companies in America are paid far more than their UK counterparts, receiving on average about $14 million in 2022. And when I said at the outset that I wanted to conduct this in a way that didn't sound undergraduate or simplistic or even politics of envy, I did mean it, because it is not beyond the realms of possibility that these individuals are worth these sums of money. It's far from a given that there's something suspect or shenaniganish going on. But I genuinely don't know. So the people I know who have so the median pay is just shy of £4 million a year. The people I know personally who sort of knock at the door of this world I have either started their companies themselves from scratch or have demonstrated skills that have been rewarded in the marketplace. But I don't know people who've moved from one to another. Do you see what I mean? That idea that there is this... I'll tell you what really interests me about this story and about these facts and these statistics and these figures. What really, really interests me is the notion of there being a threshold above which or beyond which you are laughing, right? So here's 100 people. They all start as graduate trainees on the same day at 100 different companies. How many of them get to this level? What are these people superheroes? Are they genuinely geniuses? Are they possessed of a skill set that is truly remarkable? I'm thinking of sport, right? I'm thinking of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Ashley Hemmings. I'm thinking of superb footballers. And I'm thinking that it is measurable, you know, that you see Harry Kane going to Munich, and you know why they're paying several more zeros for him than they are for some. So that idea, it's not impossible, is it? That in the realms of business, there are people possessed of skills that truly justify these absolutely enormous salaries. I really like this analogy. I'm very pleased with this. I hope it doesn't fall apart before 10:15. So what are these skills? 0345 6060 973. Because most of us might as well be talking Mandarin on a morning like this. $14 million income for an American CEO. 4 million quid, give or take, for a British equivalent. And that figure of 530,000 annual pay rise in the last year. These numbers are breathtaking. But it's the qualifications. It's the, well, I like the word threshold, the threshold over which you get. So I don't know who's going to be able to ring in today, frankly. I don't know if anybody is, but presumably there'll be people listening who know more about this subject than I do. That usually holds true, whatever the subject is. It's why the programme is so popular and successful at the moment. It's got very little to do with me and everything to do with you. So first of all, what is it that makes somebody worth this sort of money? 0345 6060 973. What is it? And second of all, I've got to get this right, okay? You're in a business and you're doing what everybody else does. You're working and you start rising up the ladder. And you know, you're doing really well now. You're thinking, oh, crikey, we're going to pay off the mortgage sooner than I thought. Or I'm going to get myself a fancy sports car or something like that. And so you're doing well. Or you're just ticking along. But then there's this super league. There's this door, this magic door, this invisible door. And when you go through that, you are being paid in telephone numbers. How do you get through that door? So are these people worth it? What are the skills? How do you get through? Because even if you've got the skills, is any of this making sense? I hope it is, because I'm absolutely fascinated by this subject, but I can hardly ring myself. You've got this door. You've got these. How do you get through it? How you watch it? Because there'll be people who are brilliant, just like there'll be, you know, they find a brilliant footballer playing. They found Ian Wright playing on Hackney Marshes on Sunday mornings, didn't they? And he was absolutely brilliant. So it can happen. There could be somebody there who's got all the skills that are needed, and they're currently driving a bus.